Hello, this is Michael Aubuchon from Kokai Brewing Company and Kyoto Japanese Market in Oceanside, California, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast all about beer. My guest today is Vince Marsaglia from Pizza Port and Julian Beer Company, and he is here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and into topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. First, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in this space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. We'll get into this conversation in just a moment, but first, this message.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2 Row is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico 2 Row. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.
The Brewer to Brewer podcast is proudly sponsored by First Tea. They have hundreds of teas and botanicals to create unique beer flavor, and ginger stands out as one of the greats. Try ginger in warming winter stouts and in ales for ginger beer flavor. Ready to spice things up? Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com to learn more about using ginger and other botanicals from First Tea.
New Hampshire knows great beer, and the New Hampshire Brewers Association is here to lift it up. With nearly 100 craft breweries statewide, the NHBA promotes, educates, and advocates for the brewers who make the state one of my very favorite beer destinations. Grab the NH Beer Trail Passport and unlock exclusive perks at select member breweries from the Great North Woods to the Seacoast. Plan a weekend, find hidden gems, and support the local breweries that make New Hampshire beer special. Learn more at nhbrewers.org.
Okay, let's get into it here. A bit about my guest today. In March of 1987, Gina and Vince Marsaglia, a pair of siblings in their 20s, bought a struggling pizza place in the sleeping coastal town of Solana Beach, just north of San Diego. Early on, Vince took advantage of the free space inside the restaurant storage area to dabble with homebrewing. The hobby took off, and the urging friends and fans, Vince and Gina decided to go into the brewpub business. Pizza Port offered its craft beers to patrons in 1992 and quickly gained a reputation in San Diego's growing craft beer scene. Following their success at the Solana Beach location, the company has been steadily expanding. Location number 2 opened in 1997, Carlsbad, California. Location 3 opened in 2003 in San Clemente. In 2008, a premium bottle shop was added adjacent to the Carlsbad location, which offers hundreds of options from other breweries and the craft beer community. Pizza Port location number 4 opened in 2010, Ocean Beach, and most recently, location number 5 opened in 2013, Bressy Ranch in the Carlsbad community. And the IB location opened in, I believe that was 2020, Vince?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and also Julian Beer Company, which opened in 2019.
Okay.
So far, the Pizza Port locations collectively have won over 91 medals and awards at the Great American Beer Festival, and they continue to encourage their brewers to create unique and award-winning beers. So why don't you, that's a lot. That was a big intro. Why don't you go ahead and tell us like how you got started and how you basically got into the, craft brewing industry to begin with.
Well, you forgot Lost Abbey.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's all right. But anyway, I got started like just pretty much how you said. I I was Gina and I we were both going to college. I was 23, so she was 22, and uh she I was going to Colorado State University. She was going to Cal Poly, and she uh actually she met a guy up there, and then they decided to start Pizza Port, and I came out just for the summer. I was just, I was like, yeah, if I can go surf, get out of Colorado and go to California, I'm going. And then when I got to California, it was just like it was a dying pizza place that they turned around. And then I decided to stay instead of going back for my fourth year of college and graduating, which was a rough conversation with my parents. But anyway, I stayed, and then me and Gina ended up taking over Pizza Port, and then like I said, I started homebrewing. I was with a customer that came in, and I had worked for Coors for a summer when I was going to school, and I was amazed at like on my breaks and stuff, I get like a 15-minute break, and I would go a different direction, every, I'd walk for like 7.5 minutes in a different direction in that massive brewery. And it was just amazing to me. And I loved beer too. So I guess that's where I first started thinking about it. But I like, when you're at Coors, it looks like like the brewer's control station looks like a nuclear submarine, and I just thought it was impossible to brew. You had to have all these controls and all this technology to make beer. So I was just more amazed at that point, and then I found out from a customer that you could homebrew, and so we started homebrewing, and we made a lot of uh, we made some really good beers, and we made some really bad beers. And I didn't really know why, at the time. One was good and one was bad. But most of the time it came down to cleaning. And then Gina, uh, she knew, she got to know, like, one of the first brewery in San Diego was actually like, I don't think they were probably legal, maybe, but it was Bolt Brewing and Paul Holborn, and they had just started making an equipment company uh, to make to make equipment for brewing, and we got to know them, and that's pretty much we were like, yeah, let's put a brewery in here, and that's how it started.
Nice. What were some of those first beers that you were brewing? Like, kind of, I mean, what was the landscape of, what other craft beers that you've had, or what beers did you want to make?
I mean, we're the oldest brewery in North County. I don't even know who's still around. I mean, Carl Strauss, I guess in San Diego, is older than us by a couple years. And I don't know if, like most of the other ones, I don't know if they're even around anymore. So there really wasn't a landscape of beers, to try. And most of those weren't, none of them were out for distribution. They were all, in a brew pub, like Carl Strauss was just a brew pub at that time. So I had no experience. I did have one experience like way prior to that, and it was Boulder beer, um, from Fort or from Boulder, of course. But it was like my friends had it in their fridge when I was in high school, and it was a porter or a stout or something, and they had, I mean, like, we were pouring it out, and they left all the yeast in the bottles. I don't know if they bottle conditioned or what, but it was like it was really thick. Like we poured it out and we thought something was wrong with the beer, but it tasted fine and none of us got sick. But it looked that having all that yeast come out was was kind of crazy. But yeah, that I had more experience with you know, like having the pizza place. We started out, it was like Coors Light, Miller Lite, Michelob Dry, those beers, and and there really wasn't much available until we could get um, uh, Anchor Steam, and that was a pretty fascinating story. And I loved that beer. And then Sierra Nevada, we got that beer. Plus, we had imports. We could get um, some English beers and stuff like that. And I just started, you know, pretty much falling in love in it with the flavor of different beers and then the culture behind them. But as far as, yeah, I mean, there was, we were pretty much ground zero when it came to beers. I mean, Swami's is definitely one the first unfiltered IPA in San Diego. So
Wow, that's
yeah.
cool. So, I mean, so you're like super early days. Like, obviously, I mean, you mentioned before that you were sourcing yeast from a professor at what was it, UCSD or somewhere else, or
Yeah, I think he was at UCSD and he was a home brewer and he would there you could grow up like Y yeast homebrew strains. Like there was no you couldn't buy a pitchable amount then. So you could grow up you know, like Y yeast strains. So, and I'm guessing I was getting pretty much Chico, so I don't know where he was actually getting it from. I I just met him and I think I traded pizza for yeast or something, or yeah, that's pretty much how it probably went. And he would grow it up in a homebrew batch, and then I had a yeast propagator, so I would take it from that, and it was just kind of it was pretty much a fermenter with a carb stone on it that I ran oxygen through, and then I would grow it up from there, and then pitch it into one batch, and then I had yeast for a while, but you know, like we weren't we had no yeast program. We weren't you know, it was all just you would go until you thought the yeast couldn't go anymore. So it was I would go man, I'd go 18 generations uh you know on his yeast. Um so yeah.
what about sourcing like hops and grain back then?
Same thing. It was like I really there wasn't a whole lot of that, so I could get hops from Hop Union. They were the ones who kind of embraced the whole microbrew industry. And malt, I used to have to drive a truck up with these big cardboard bins that held like 150 pounds each, and I would take them up to Great Western up in Los Angeles, and they had their huge silo cone, and they would fill 2 row on Wednesdays, and it was 6 row for all the big breweries, and they were filling, you know, like rail cars outside. So I would pull up to Great Western and push my, you know, like push my little 150 pound uh, containers underneath this huge silo cone, and the guy would like barely tap it, and it would be full. And then I'd have to like wrestle him back to the truck to the loading dock and just, you know, like load him into my my little truck and then drive him down to Solana Beach. And then I was getting specialty from Brees, I believe. Yeah, it was probably Brees. And that was I didn't really have a whole lot of choices at that time that I knew of. Yeah, like in anything, equipment, yeast, and none of the stuff. It was like, oh, you know, you'd find a source, and that was your source.
Yeah, so I mean, you've kind of talked about the early days. Can you like briefly talk about when did you, obviously it was very kind of like slow and just getting taken off the ground, the craft brewing industry in the beginning. Like, can you talk about when you started to see things start changing and when you had to start hiring people to help you out and some also maybe some of the companies that you helped in the early days?
Yeah, it was uh wait, what's your question again? I'm sorry, Mike.
Sorry, I'm just asking like when the craft beer industry started to change, like and you started, what changes in the company did you make, like hiring people, and what are some of the other companies that were coming up during that time that you helped?
I mean, well, we all helped, like the the brewers in San Diego all helped each other for sure. Like, I mean, if because there wasn't anybody else to turn to, I mean, if if a pump went out or like La Jolla Brewing Company, they ended up getting silos, so they were getting full truckloads of two row, so I didn't have to drive to LA anymore. So I would drive down there and get that. We would borrow filters from each other and stuff like that. So we all kind of helped each other out. We didn't really, we didn't view it as like a competition thing. It was more like we're all in this together and let's make it work. The As far as, like, I mean, it was just a slow uh going process of showing people, like the microbrewed beer or the brew pub beer. It was, people that had no clue. I mean, one guy, I don't know, I was kind of joking around with him, but like, he didn't even know what the brewery was. He's looking at it and he was kind of crazy anyway, but he's like, "What is that?" And I turned to him and I said, "It's an experimental thermonuclear reactor. We're under our own power here, sir." And he kind of freaked out. And then I said, "No, it's a brewery." And I showed him the brewery. I'm getting way off topic, but I'm just saying it was kind of like like a slow go, educating people and educating ourselves too. I mean, to different styles and I mean different cultures. Just, I don't know when it started taking off. When you're in a brew pub, you end up getting so busy that and I mean, I'm managing a business, fixing everything. I'm pretty much doing everything, advertise everything, the whole thing. So you're pretty much wrapped up in you know, that little microcosm that is a brew pub. And I guess I didn't really think about hiring anybody until we got the second location, which was Carlsbad, and there was just too much work. I couldn't. There's no way I could brew and open a restaurant and do all that. So that's when one of the guys that worked there showed interest in it, and I showed him how to brew, and he was a home brewer too. And that was pretty much all the hiring came out of like necessity. It wasn't like a completely planned thing. It was like, oh, pretty much every day you wake up and you fill needs is what you do in a brew pub. You're like, today I have to fix this, or I have to order this, or I have to pay taxes, whatever. You're just constantly filling needs.
Yeah, but like there was a lot of breweries that had like the first beers on tap at Solana Beach, correct? Like you
Yeah,
know,
I bought like the first keg of Stone, Ballast Point, brewed their first commercial batch. I brewed it with Yusef and Jack White and Chris White at Solana Beach, and it was like their Calico Red, I think, and they brewed it to show investors and stuff. Um, I don't know. There's been multitudes of first beers, and I mean, Chris White was coming into uh, Pizza Port, Solana Beach, and I mean, he ended up opening up White Labs because he saw a need for pitchable strains, and I think it was probably from Solana Beach, and he was filling a need too.
Yeah, so what are some of the beers that were your favorites that you kind of think like kind of chart the craft brewing industry kind of changing?
Uh, as far as the beers I like, I mean, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, that is like that is the best beer. That's like one of my favorite beers. As far as what I think turned the whole thing in San Diego was probably Stone Brewing. They really they pushed for distribution, and they got into places, into restaurants that were more mainstream than anybody else. Carl Strauss definitely had a role in that too, but Stone was really they made it into, you know, like downtown San Diego and all of San Diego. They they probably turned more people on to craft beer than anybody else that I know of. Um, uh, Probably I would say Stone is responsible for uh, the craft brewery explosion um, in San Diego more than anybody in my mind, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Did
what
I
are
answer
some
your question?
Yeah, what are some of the beers that have inspired you, like traveling? Because I know, we've traveled some places together and had some pretty fun trips in Europe and Japan and things. Like, what are some of the beers that stand out to you, um, you know, traveling abroad?
Um, Pilsner Urquell. I A lot of it though with beer is it. You know, there's so many great beers out there, but so much of it is like when you get to travel to a new place is it's all like a big package. It's like, you know, the culture, like learning a new culture, making new friends, like all the beer people, all the brewers that I've met around the world they're all, you know, pretty down to earth, you know, just cool people, and they seem to know where the best restaurants are, and we all kind of share, you know, like kind of the same mindset. So when you say, you know, just what what beers have inspired, you know, it's more like a whole, it's like a bigger thing than just the beer. There, you know, that's kind of a tough question because there isn't just like this holy grail of beer that lights up and you go, that's that. There hasn't been too many of those. It's just an overall picture of how somebody's, you know, living, drinking uh, their beer, just the processes involved and the camaraderie. So as far as that goes, yeah, we've had some pretty great trips. Like, and you're good at finding, you know, like I really liked Cannonball Creek too. Those guys are really cool. Um, and it's my hometown. That's Golden, Colorado too. So that was kind of fun. Uh, I don't know. That's a tough question, Mike.
So, you're also an amazing chef. Um, uh, I mean, you basically developed all of the food menu and all of that stuff at Pizza and then also Julian Barbecue, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Pizza Port, it was all pretty much there. I mean, we we just we may have streamlined it a little bit and done that, but most of the recipes, the pizzas and everything were there. And I didn't really love, you know, have a love for cooking at that time in my life. Like I didn't know. I mean, I still made my sister Gina make me mac and cheese at that point. I would, or nachos or something. But then uh, when you start making beer and you start making food, you really start getting into it. Like, and they're both pretty synonymous. Like, the brewing makes you a better cook, and the cook makes you a better brewer, I think. And you're a prime example of that, actually. Um, but Yeah, at in Julian, it's really a team effort. Like we all um come up with stuff together. It's not just me pointing fingers, and same with the brewing. It's like all of all the brewers, everybody has their own idea and everybody gets to express that. And it's definitely more of a team effort than like me directing the show. I feel more like I I keep the doors open, and I make sure everything's running right so that we can all do those things, all work as a team. And it's awesome to see everybody get so inspired by each other and 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 proud of what they do. I mean, if I think if I was telling everybody what to do, it would be pretty boring, and we would not have had nowhere near the success of with the awards and all that, and just beers that I love to drink. So as far as me being the one that I start and facilitate maybe, and nudge along and learn from everybody along the way. So it's really, I mean, there has to be a starting point. So it'll be like, okay, here's where we're starting, but where it ends up, you it's anybody's guess always.
We are going to take a short break for this message and then come right back for more of this conversation with Vince Marsaglia from Pizza Port and Julian Barbecue Company.
Holiday times are the right time for a nice gingerbread stout. First Tea has ginger, the defining flavor of this zesty holiday classic. Combine ginger with cinnamon, vanilla, and other flavors to create your distinctive holiday brew. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA.com to find out more.
New Hampshire knows great beer, and the New Hampshire Brewers Association is here to lift it up. With nearly 100 craft breweries statewide, the NHBA promotes, educates, and advocates for the brewers who make the state one of my very favorite beer destinations. Grab the NH Beer Trail Passport and unlock exclusive perks at select member breweries from the Great North Woods to the Seacoast. Plan a weekend, find hidden gems, and support the local breweries that make New Hampshire beer special. Learn more at nhbrewers.org.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2 is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico 2. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican-style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.
All right, welcome back. Vince, what made you decide to open up a brewery and barbecue place in Julian?
It's kind of a long story, but I was kind of bored. Like it was after uh uh it was after Pizza Port Ocean Beach was built, and I didn't really have a whole lot to do. It was like the first time at all the other breweries when they had opened, I was, once the brew pub opened, I was either brewing or managing the restaurant. I was always there. Like I was cooking on the line or doing, whatever it took to get the place open and running right. But when Ocean Beach opened, there were people, that were doing the hiring, that were actually, like showing people how the kitchens run and all that. So they knew what they were doing. And so I didn't have a big part in that. So, and I had, I had worked pretty hard for a while. And so I didn't have to do it. And, so at first it was great. The first 2 weeks was probably, I was like, oh my gosh, this is how people live a life. And then, about a month after that, you start getting bored and you miss it. And then, you just kind of hop around to the different locations and help out when you can help out. And that's kind of fun, but it's still, we could have opened up another location, I guess, but instead, I just started talking to a friend, and we were going to open maybe a Belgian beer bar. And I said, yeah, I would like to cook. And I had, I'd always wanted to cook that kind of food. But I was like, I really don't want to run another restaurant, so I'll just cook. And then it turned out through a series of people that I found out about this barbecue place in Julian. And so I went out and looked at it, and it's an hour and a half or hour and 20-minute drive from San Diego. But I was like, I don't know. And it's next to a cemetery, which was even weirder. And I was like, it's a small little tourist town. And I was just kind of like, I don't know about this. And then, well, I opened it with Tom Nickel and his wife and my sister. And it turned out Tom had a cabin up there. And he was like, yeah, we already have like a cabin and we come up here all the time when it snows. And so I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, maybe this is it. And it was. We ended up buying it, and uh it was and put a small, like a real small brewery in there. And that's pretty much how that place was born. That's that's how that one happened.
Yeah, and it's obviously, I mean, it's cranking now, and you have a 7 barrel Premier in there, and you have that big M&M barbecue and stuff. What made you want to do barbecue? Coming from pizza.
I love barbecue. Barbecue is like, I mean, it's such an American, I mean, not only American, but it's such a regional, it's definitely like beer in the fact that it's very regional, very specific to and people are probably as passionate about barbecue as they are about beer. I'm sure there's been fights over both, and, and high fives too, I guess. But there's just something about that, the whole the whole process. It's, you you take all day, and maybe sometimes over, a day and a half just making and putting your energy into that one brisket or the multiple briskets. So, that's I barbecue is a very unique way of cooking. And there's people that are definitely doing the high end, like gourmet barbecue. And I'm just saying, it goes the full range. It goes from being, like something you would get at a gas station, to a trailer off the side of the road, to fine restaurants. It like high end restaurants. It goes the full gamut of. And I guess it really boils down, it's just the flavor. It's like the same with craft beer and all that. It's an unmatched flavor. And it's kind of magical how it all comes together. And it's not easy to do. And that makes it fun too. It makes it challenging. So I don't know.
What are some of the best food and beer pairings that people can enjoy at Julian Beer Co?
Uh, that's a good question. I don't know that the, I don't know. I like more, maybe a little bit more malty, but I don't know. Sometimes with the fattier stuff on the brisket, like an IPA kind of cuts through that, or like on a pork belly bite. But the malty beers, they definitely go with barbecue. And the porters and stouts, they do. The farmhouse ales go really good with barbecue. Uh, there's a lot of them. That's I don't know what my favorite is. I don't think I have. I'm not much of a favorite guy. I'm just kind of like I just like the experience of like, oh man, this is you know, this is really good together. This is an amazing moment. But I have a lot of those, so it's hard to it's hard to uh it's hard to differentiate them or pick them out.
Yeah, what are some of the, because you guys do some different pizzas up there with the barbecue toppings. What are some of those pizzas that you guys do up there?
For Well, we do a lot of different ones. I mean, we're always like experimenting amongst ourselves. Just like like taking like the pork belly and making pizza out of that. But we make a lot of weird stuff for us in the back. That's that I don't think would make it to a menu. That I don't think. I mean, it wouldn't look right on a menu. But they're awesome. Plus, we just get bored, eating the same thing all the time, and then you have to do something. We're always throwing crazy stuff on the smoker because it's always going. Uh, I don't know.
So,
I don't.
so you mentioned earlier, so the people that don't know, I mean, Julian, you live in Carlsbad, so Julian's about an hour and a half drive up there. Um, what still, drives you to, work that hard and run that place and still be involved with Pizza Port? Just continue to just work your butt off in the industry.
I love it. It's like it's not really like work. It's like a way of life. The thing I like most is just uh the all the people that that work at all the places. It it's just a fun group. Everybody's fun. It's just it's really fun. Plus, in Julian, I like my sons. My sons are up there too, and this was like their first uh, restaurant brewery type experience, opening one and running it, and they're really running it, which is nice because I'm not really running it. I just give pointers every once in a while, so that's kind of nice too. Um, but it's part of it is I get to hang out with them every day, and we get to overcome challenges together, and and it but it really boils down to the people, like customers and everybody that is uh they're working. It's so fun. It's just fun. I that like it's not even, if it was like something that I would consider like work, it's not work. It's something that is just a way of life.
Yeah, so I mean, Pizza Port and also, Julian Barbecue Company. I mean, they both are just very, very successful businesses in a time where, kind of, there's a lot of people, going out of business right now in the craft brewing industry. What do you think it is that sets, your brands apart? And what advice would you give to a brewery on how to stay, successful and relevant, in this current market?
Uh, Half the time I don't even know. Like uh I I think I mean it just comes down to everybody loves what they do. But I don't lots of times I don't know what sets it apart. Except we kept it simple. Like even the barbecue place, barbecue pizza and beer, we've kept it fairly simple and not not made it too complicated, because when it's all busy and like that's about the amount of crazy I can handle, and I can't imagine having like a full, you know, sit down wait staff type of place with multiple different things and hard liquor and all that, like that would just, yeah, that would convolute the things. I would say just do, it's like what you're doing too. Like it's, just what you do, make it great and keep it simple. Just try and, if everybody's on the same page, that's making all the beer and making all the food, everybody's they just want to make it great. Like that's it. I mean, some of it comes down to like and it's different between, I guess it's different between like, like regional breweries and brew pubs. Like I always see a need for a brew pub, um, no matter what happens, because it's like a community hub, it's like that's where you go to talk to your friends, to get something to eat. And it's there, the brew pubs, I think, there'll always be a need for that. It's been around, that type of establishment has been around well before me or you were born, and it's just a community thing. Being, and being part of the community. The As far as the bigger picture, like the regional, and the nationwide breweries, that's a different thing. That's that I don't know that I will ever fully understand. But again, just, I mean, I don't know. Don't It's focused on quality for sure, and and passion, and not trying to grow too fast, probably. Um, uh, I don't know, and it's just it's a culture. I mean, beer is such an experiential thing. It's like it it, it it's not just about the beer. Uh it's about your whole experience, and like, do I fit into this place? And like, I think in San Diego, the having the pizza ports, and somebody goes in and they have a good experience, and they relate that to seeing the beer on the shelf. So they're relating an experience to the beer, not just, it's not just this is the best beer. This is, the because what is the best beer? I mean, you ask 100 people and you'll get 100 different answers.
Yeah, for sure. You said don't expand too quickly. You and Gina are basically, you guys have no investors, right? You guys are sole owners of the business.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit on that? Like how did you initially come up with the money, and how did you kind of grow in a way to maintain, financial stability?
Uh, it was pretty much luck, I guess, because like I mean, I was going to school, and like I said, and I mean, I came out to California with like $500 or something like that, 800, I don't know. And I was just expecting uh to go back to school. And then all of a sudden, like the pizza, Pizza Port was bought as a failing business. So I mean, I can get into the numbers. It was like it didn't cost anything really. The guy wanted to unload it, so it was he wanted $12,000, I think. And then there was a food debt with the distributor of some amount, probably under 10,000, that needed to get paid off. And then there was an equipment loan that was like $1,000 a month, and he wanted $1,000 a month for 2 years. So pretty much all of the money came out of the business. So we just worked our butts off, and it was just a pizza place at that time. And so we pretty much worked our butts off, and paid everybody off. And then all of a sudden, you're not paying all the debts off anymore. And then that's money that you can build the business on. And I remember when we were putting in the brewery, uh the guy, the guy who's putting in the brewery, he was like, yeah, your beer sales are going to go up eightfold. And, I was like, nothing goes up eightfold. Nothing in that I've ever seen in this business goes up eightfold. And he pretty much hit the number right on the head. Like our as soon as the brewery opened, our beer sales went up pretty much eightfold. And we spent the next 2 years. I mean, you have to realize, I mean, we're 23. I didn't even know you needed a building permit. I mean, I had the lemonade mentality of this America, can't you do what you want? And, like just put up a new sign out front, put up this, build, put in a brewery. It, so, so anyway, so all that's going on. And I didn't, uh, we didn't, we were just playing catch up like the whole time as that eightfold, beer number hit. Gene and I were just trying to come up with solutions the whole time to like, how do we handle this? How do we get, we have to make it right for the customer. When somebody comes in here, we have to be able to make sure they have a great time. And so every month beat the next month, for something like 2 years. Instead of it being a seasonal business, it became, it kept increasing. And so for those, first 2-3 years, we were just playing catch up, trying to figure out how to make everything work. And then there's the challenge of opening up the second location. And and uh and and at that point, it pretty much comes down to everybody that's working there, whether that's going to fly or it's not. you everybody has to be on the same page and really be about the customer at that point, because we definitely failed a couple of times with that. uh I'm just rambling on here, Mike. You can
No
stop.
worries, dude. That's what we want to hear.
So,
What you
but I guess what I'm trying to say is like it all just came out of like it was hard work and just being, not spending money. Like it was when we had money, we put it in the bank. And then when a new location became available, it was like, okay, we can finally, we can do it. Let's give it a shot. And we tried a new location and it worked. And then the next step was like, oh, we can buy a building to put this brewery in. And we were able, it's about convincing the bank that, that they're not going to lose their money. Because like the first loan that I took out was the equipment loan for Solana Beach for the brewing equipment. When we put that in, it was an unsecured loan. I mean, Gene and I we didn't have anything except the restaurant, which the equipment value is pretty much zero. But I went to meet with the bank in my shorts and t-shirt and briefcase. And yes, I did have a briefcase to make it look official. And I would show up there and I did, I mean, I was an engineering major, so I was doing spreadsheets before they were probably popular. And I would show them all these spreadsheets, how even if the brewery made no money, I could pay them back. And they said they gave us the loan. They gave us $100,000 loan to build the brewery. So,
is that how much that costed the
yeah,
initial?
the build out and the equipment and everything. It was right at $100,000.
Yeah, that's the same brewery, right? It hasn't changed since then, right?
The brew house, the mash tun, the combi tank is a new one. Or no, that's an old one. The brew kettle got changed out once, but everything else is the same. Even the Grundies in the basement, the old English Grundies in the basement are still the same.
Yeah. What about the Carlsbad location? Obviously, I'm a little bit interested because I I brewed for you at that location for so long. But you bought that new from DME and as
Yeah, it was new from DME, and you abused it, Mike. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I have an invoice for. No, I'm just kidding. You brewed so many batches of beer on that system. It's
oh,
insane that kettle's still going. But that's all the original equipment from there too. Um, yeah, I mean you did some tweaks to it a little bit. I think. Yeah, you did a little bit. I remember a copper pipe and some other stuff.
Yeah, I did what you gave me the budget to do, Vince.
Oh, so that was a 1 foot section of copper pipe.
That was about all that was in my budget.
Yeah, I'm cheap, Mike. I'm cheap.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so I mean, what are some of the things that you've learned that maybe you can share? One of the things that you've said in the past is when you bought a building that was kind of like a game changer for you as a business. Like, how was that a big benefit?
Well, the first thing I learned was patience. That has been if I could sum up the whole brew pub experience, I would say I've learned patience. Uh, but yeah, what was the other part?
Oh, when you say, well,
Oh, the building.
let's touch on the patient's part a little bit. Like, do you think maybe, early on in your career, maybe you acted out and got angry at people and then regretted it later, and maybe not saying anything is a better way to go? Or
Not saying anything is not a better way to go, but choosing when to say it and and not acting out of impulse because like the restaurant can definitely like when things are not going right, they're not going right. And
oh,
it's real easy to act out of impulse and just I mean yeah, I've lost it before. I think everybody's lost it. Uh,
oh,
but I've lost it before and it's really there is nothing to be gained from that. I've learned that over a period of time. There is nothing to be gained from that. Uh, it's way better to if you can just take a step back in the moment and just realize how messed up everything is
yeah,
and do the best that you can and then figure out a solution, you know, because it doesn't always come, from you. It comes from like everybody. And if you just explode, it shuts everybody down. So patience is a good thing to be able to take a step back and really evaluate it and say something that you regret or that you don't even really mean. You mean it in the moment, maybe, but it's not really the truth of the situation. But once you say it, you can't take it back, sort of thing.
yeah. And like usually when a lot of times that I've found when those situations come up, they're in high stress, situations. You're super busy, stuff's getting messed up, customers upset, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, yeah. So, yeah, the having patience is great for everybody.
Cool. And then so going back to when you owned your first property, you kind of said that that was a huge benefit for the business and kind of a game changer. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit or?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's in a lot of different ways because you look at all the businesses around and it's like, oh, this place has been in there, this place has gone in there, this, you're just a kind of you feel kind of like a visitor there and I mean, I'm a builder too, so I like I've seen all the hard work that goes into building these building the brewery and I have a lot of blood, sweat and tears in that. And then at the end to just see it not be yours is kind of a kick in the face. Like if when I when I walk into a building and it's pretty destroyed and like uh like Carlsbad or OB, like when we walked in, a lot of people are like, "This is crazy. This place looks like a war zone." And all I think is, "Oh man, that's just less stuff I have to tear out. This is great." And then when you when you build it, you feel proud of it. You look at the all the challenges and you look at the like, oh, there's this plumbing issue or this electrical issue or there's brick underneath all this plaster. Let's bring that out. And you just feel proud of it. I mean, I still walk around the breweries and I can sit there and look at things, and I see like a whole different, like the amount of work it was to tear down that ceiling and how cool it looks, and maybe we could do something different. But it's, well, we don't own that one, so that's a different story. But like on some of them, when you build something, it's part of the building, it's part of the community, it's part of the whole thing for customers. And at the same time, it's like you feel like it's yours. It's like renting it, it's the same as renting a house or owning a house, same kind of mentality, I guess. But another benefit too is just, as time goes on, at some point you don't have a lease payment. When you have the lease payments are never going down, just like an apartment. The lease payments are always going to go up. But once you get a rate, if you have a fixed on a building, then your rate is consistent the whole time. And at some point you get to the point where it's just gone, and the property is it's accrued value over that time. Even if you do go out of business or something, you would have a building that you could rent out to somebody that is, it's something you can pass on to your kids, maybe. It, I'm there's I don't really know. I still don't know all the tax benefits to all of it. I should. That would be important to know, but I don't. But it just feels like, it's overall, like I can't see myself. Well, I say I can't see myself leasing another property, and we just leased one. And it was because it was up in Julian, and my sons wanted to do a hamburger place, and I was like, and the rent was so cheap, I was like, yeah, you might as well just lease it. But I'm a big proponent of, like, if I'm going to build something, own the building, and I'm here to stay. I'm not a visitor. I'm a fixture.
Okay, Vince, well, thank you very, very much for being on the show. It was always, something on my bucket list that I always wanted to interview you and hear all these stories from the early days of the brewing industry. And it's been amazing, like being a close friend to yours and learning from you and just growing with you in this brewing community and traveling with you and cooking with you and brewing with you. It's been great.
I love you too, Mike.
All righty. Well, Vince will be back on the next episode of this show as the host, having a conversation with a brewer of his choosing. That will be on the air in 2 weeks or so. Make sure that you tune in for that. Visit allaboutbeer.com and follow up on social media at allaboutbeer. To support journalism in the beer space, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. I am Michael Aubuchon from Kokai Brewing Company and Kyoto Japanese Market in Oceanside, California. Thank you for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast.
First Tea is your source for ginger and whole host of teas for brewing. Find your winter flavors and aromas to spice up the winter season by talking with the team at First Tea. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA to find out more.
New Hampshire knows great beer, and the New Hampshire Brewers Association is here to lift it up. With nearly 100 craft breweries statewide, the NHBA promotes, educates, and advocates for the brewers who make the state one of my very favorite beer destinations. Grab the NH Beer Trail Passport and unlock exclusive perks at select member breweries from the Great North Woods to the Seacoast. Plan a weekend, find hidden gems, and support the local breweries that make New Hampshire beer special. Learn more at nhbrewers.org.
I'm Bradley Zimmerman from Badger Hill Brewing in Shakopee, Minnesota. Malta Mexico 2 Row is the first of its kind, so I was excited to try it out and see how it performed in the brew house. We had just brewed Mucho Gusto, our Mexican lager, so we used Malta, Mexico in our American light lager called Longhorn. Performed well in the brew house. There's a little bit of toasted, flaked rice, and then some rice syrup solids in the kettle, and a touch of dextrin in the beer as well, and that's it. So it's basically showcasing Malta Mexico two-row. We normally use a Pilsner malt in that beer, so we got similar notes to a Pilsner malt, but we got a little bit more cracker out of it. A little bit of not toast and not bread dough, kind of somewhere in between. It had a pleasant sweetness to it, but it wasn't cloying or anything like that. Performed well in the brew house. We hit all our numbers as far as efficiency goes, so we were happy with the results there. If you're doing Mexican style lagers, Malta definitely helps tell the story, especially since it's grown and malted in Mexico. No one's ever done that to this date, so it's fun to get people excited about that process and where things are going. We definitely like to tell that story. Contact Malt Europe today and visit maltingco.com.